Buckle up, one of the first and very important lessons we learn as small children. This lesson is not only stressed through our parents' teachings, but also on commercials that were played while watching our favorite TV shows. The idea of wearing a seatbelt was fresh in every child's mind while growing up. That is, until they boarded their very first school bus. The idea of not wearing a seatbelt on such a large vehicle may have been very strange and quite alien to any child. Would you want your child to experience the same discomfort on a bus? Seatbelts should be required on all school buses that transport students to and from school in Shelby County. By installing seatbelts, the safety of all school bus passengers will increase, student behavior problems and unreasonable distractions to the bus drivers can be nearly eliminated, and the benefits from the seatbelts could eventually outweigh the costs. The addition of seatbelts to school buses has many benefits. One of the most important benefits is that it simply makes the bus much safer for students. Numerous tests have been performed testing the safety and reliability of seatbelts on school buses. According to the results from the Transport Canada school bus crash test, the only dummy that died on the large school bus was unbelted. Similar results were provided by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And side impact and rollover, the use of seatbelts are likely to provide additional safety. It is very apparent that tests such as these have proven very well that school buses are much safer with the implementation of seatbelts. Not only do seatbelts protect students during collisions, but they also serve as good moral teachings and practices. As teens begin driving, they should be in a very good habit of putting on a seatbelt before taking the wheel. This habit isn't currently being practiced on our buses and is actually being contradicted without the use of seatbelts on school buses. The installation of seatbelts on school buses will not only increase student safety, but allow better student behavior as well. On a typical bus, students have an excessive amount of freedom to move around within their seats. This freedom is very dangerous to students who do not sit in their seat properly. According to a study by the NHTSA, there was improved behavior in buses with seatbelts, and all of the transportation directors in the study supported the decision to equip their entire fleet with seatbelts. This study provides credible evidence that student behavior improves when seatbelts are on the bus. Students wearing a seatbelt are far more disciplined and less prone to acting poorly than those who aren't. This discipline not only provides the safety necessary for each individual student to make their way to and from school, but distractions to the bus driver are reduced as well. During the same study, the effects on the bus driver were analyzed as well. The calmer climate produced by seatbelt usage allows drivers to concentrate better while driving and observe more carefully the students in danger zones outside of the bus. This additional evidence proves even more that seatbelts can create a much safer environment on school buses. Without seatbelts, school bus drivers are forced to work in distracting conditions, only bettering the likeliness of disaster. Experiencing these conditions is unnecessary and can be avoided with the installation of seatbelts. Many would agree that the installation of seatbelts on school buses is quite costly, but the benefits of these life-saving devices far outweigh their expenses. According to Safeguard, a brand of IMMI that manufactures school bus restraint systems, typical market prices for equipping school bus with lap shoulder belts is $7,000 to $9,000. According to the National Coalition for School Bus Safety, the cost of medical care resulting from one collision is often greater than the cost of belts for the entire fleet. The correlation between seatbelts and cost is quite apparent. The use of seatbelts would dramatically reduce injury and therefore any medical costs due to a collision. The cost of installing seatbelts would eventually prove to be more beneficial than ever installing them to begin with. Fundamentally, a price can be placed on seatbelts and medical expenses, but a price cannot be placed on the safety of students and their lives. Essentially, the solution to the problem at hand would simply be to install seatbelts on all school buses. This could be done in a fairly easy manner considering the recent boom in the manufacturing of seatbelts for school buses. According to the Safeguard Company, manufacturing technology has increased, production volumes have increased, and new features on school bus seats have met more industry needs. The brand of IMMI also writes, typical cost of equipping a school bus with seatbelts have gone down several $1,000s, from $12,000 to $14,000 5 years ago to $7,000 to $9,000 now. These quotes portray how companies are making an increased effort to rapidly produce quality school bus seatbelts for its customers. This effort provides evidence that the demand for seatbelts to be installed on school buses is increasing very quickly. This increase in demand would not be prevalent unless the seatbelts themselves proved a sufficient solution to bus safety issues. Many people would argue that the current school buses in use today are the safest way of transportation to and from school. One of the main reasons for this argument is due to the safety feature of compartmentalization. The idea of compartmentalization is based around the high and padded seat backs that allow students to be seated in somewhat of a compartment while riding the bus. This compartment is said to be sufficient enough to protect passengers during a collision. This is not always the case. A prime example of the failure of this technology occurred in Reno, Nevada in 1987. During this bus trip, witness reporters said, "The children noticed the driver was having problems and stood up to see what was wrong. When the bus collided into another bus, the children were bounced around, causing 82 children to be injured." This crash provides a tragic example that disproves the reliability of compartmentalization. If the students had been wearing seatbelts, they would have been much more likely to remain seated rather than transition to a standing position. Students would not have been launched into the air during the collision, and injuries would have dramatically been reduced. The evidence is clear that the installation of seatbelts would dramatically increase student safety, provide a much safer environment on school buses, and the benefits would prove more important than the cost. The amount of research performed on school bus seatbelts not only provides persuading statistics, but also shows the extent at which researchers believe school buses need a large safety improvement. It is my hope that in the future, when my children board a school bus, the act of buckling up will be a part of their everyday routine.